All right, let's reverse roles.
Okay. That means I need to sign off, doesn't it?
If I'm really rubbish, I might backtrack on this, but...
Don't overthink it.
Hello, you're listening to Animal Nonsense. My name's David.
I'm Jess. Welcome.
Oh, that was all right. I made it.
Yeah, it's not as hard as you think.
I think with ending it, it kind of feels more natural somehow. But you're going to end this episode.
Might you remind me because I'll forget. Now, if people want to follow us, where can they find us?
Animal Nonsense Pod, Instagram and Facebook. And we also have an email address, which I remember, and it's animalnonsencepodcast@gmail.com.
I am rewatching one of my favourite shows ever. I don't think you've ever seen this. Have you watched Game of Thrones?
I've not.
I didn't think you would. I don't think you'd like it. I feel like you'd hate it. It's super violent. It's brilliantly written, brilliantly performed, but it is, God, it's grim. And not only is it the violence, but just some of the subject matter is horrific, but excellent series.
All right.
Do you know anything about Game of Thrones?
Only really the name.
Okay. It is fantasy, that there's dragons, there's like witches, magic and stuff like that. But then it's also very reminiscent of the Middle Ages. So episode 1, series 1, Game of Thrones is all about families and different houses. So there's one of the houses is the Stark family. So in this first episode, Ned Stark, played by Sean Bean, he finds these 5 direwolf puppies and gives a puppy to each of his children. The puppies are named according to who they belong to and characteristic that links them to their owner. So the first one, Robb Stark's puppy, is called Greywind, to represent his speed and his agility. And then you've got Ghost, who is Jon Snow's puppy, which is symbolic of
Jon Snow, wasn't he the Channel 4 News?
Yes, oh my God, he was as well, wasn't he? But he's also a character played by Kit Harington.
Right.
The King of the North. He is kind of very silent and brooding. And also, obviously, Ghost, White Snow. He's now Beano Wolf. And then you've got Lady, who is Sansa Stark's wolf. And that kind of reflects her desire to be part of society. And then you've got Nymeria, Arya Stark's wolf, who Nymeria was a warrior princess. And then you've got Summer, who is Bran's wolf. Summer's named to kind of symbolise hope during harsh winters. And then for the last one, I feel like they just totally ran out of inspiration because the last dog that belongs to Rickon is called Shaggy Dog. Run out of names. In the first season, the direwolf puppies were played by Northern Inuit puppies, as they've got a wolf-like appearance. The show's creators wanted the audience to grow attached to the dogs, which is obviously a lot easier if you've got actual puppies, because who doesn't want actual puppies as opposed to CGI? The actress Sophie Turner, who plays Sansa, she actually adopted her puppy in real life. And then they all were killed off relatively early on. Some of them make it further than others. There's Ghost makes it right the way to the end.
You know, right
Spoilers.
now I already don't want to watch it because we've got a lot of dead puppies.
I know, it's brutal.
Ought we to warn people that if they've not watched it, they might learn things? They might not want to.
No, not massively. Well,
right, okay.
Some of them die. You may be thinking, what the hell is a direwolf? Aenoscion dirus, which comes from the ancient Greek words of Aenos, meaning terrible, and Scion, meaning dog.
Right.
So these were the biggest members of the canine family that we've ever had. They roamed the Americas, so North and South America, during the last ice age. They've been extinct for 10,000 years. All kinds of habitats, anything from forested mountainous areas to deserts. Larger and stockier than regular wolves, with larger heads, massive teeth, and the strongest bite force of any canids, any of the dog family. There are theories about how this species evolved. There's one theory that during times of abundant food, everything is going great, mammal populations could give rise to a hypermorph, which is like a larger version of that species, which instantly makes me think of the Meg. Did you watch the Meg?
No.
It's just this super jacked up shark.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like Jaws on acid. I enjoyed it. Jason Statham, it's a very Jason Statham movie.
Oh, is it as well? Oh, no, there's a big shark over there.
Basically, yeah, I digress. Anyway, it's not even a mammal. But there was that idea that you could produce like an extra big souped up version of the mammal. And then when food became more scarce, this hypermorph would either adapt into a smaller form or it would just go extinct. The evidence shows from their tooth fossils that over time, as we move into like the more modern remains that have been found of the direwolves, that their remains were smaller and they had more jaw fractures. So what they think this means is food was scarcer. They were having to eat quicker because there's more competition for food. So they were eating more bones because they're just trying to like shovel it down. And that's causing the jaw fractures. They think this food scarcity kind of ties in with climate change near the end of the Ice Age. And that is what pushed them to their extinction. We're either in, or it's believed we're on the cusp of the sixth mass extinction. You know, there was the asteroid with the dinosaurs and massive volcanic eruptions or like rapid temperature shifts, stuff like that, which causes these mass extinctions. This extinction would be the first to be caused by a single species, us. They estimated that by 2050, over a third of all species that exist today will be extinct. Extinction is like a natural thing. It does happen, but we have accelerated it. If you think of it like a Jenga block, when a species becomes extinct, the whole tower of the ecosystem can collapse. And when it happens really quickly, like it's happening now, nature doesn't really have time to adjust and fill those gaps. So particularly vulnerable to extinction are those apex predators that sit at the top of the food chain, which tend to have like smaller populations, slow reproduction rates. They're dependent on like these large prey. They need large hunting areas, and that's what's happening a lot. They're losing their habitats. Also, they're considered threats to humans. Like I think most people would be okay with like a gazelle in their backyard, but maybe not a tiger. What the does this have to do with direwolves?
All right.
So this is a positive story about regular wolves that were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park in 1995. Now, without any kind of top predators, the national park had just become overrun by deer, and a lot of the vegetation had been grazed away.
Bambi was feasting.
They moved in this very small number of wolves, and it caused something called a trophic cascade, which is when an ecological process starts right at the top and then the effects like just trickle down. The introduction of the wolves, obviously they preyed upon the deer. These were a small number, so it was a small number of deer were killed for food, but it affected the deer's behaviour. So the deer changed their behaviour by avoiding areas in the park where they were vulnerable to becoming hunted, which is mainly like the gorges and the valleys. So without the deer in those areas then started to regenerate, grow a lot more vegetation. In some places, the heights of the trees grew 5 times higher than they previously had. In just a few years, these bare valleys became forests. Birds then start moving into the forest, and also beavers, because they eat the trees. And then the beavers create niche habitats because they build dams. So then you've got these niche habitats that suit otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. And suddenly the park's becoming so much more diverse. The wolves killed coyotes, which caused the rabbit and mouse populations to grow, which leads to more hawks and weasels and foxes and badgers. Because there's so much more diversity in life, there's so much more carrion. So then you get the ravens and the bald eagles, and also bears to feed on the carrion. And the bears have also got a lot more access to berries because obviously there's loads more vegetation. And then the bears reinforce what the wolves are doing by killing off some of the deer calves. So in response to all of this like trickle-down effect from the wolves being introduced, because there was so much more vegetation, it meant there was less soil erosion, less riverbanks collapsing. So the rivers kind of strengthened their path, more pools were formed. So these wolves transformed the ecosystem, but also like the physical geography of the land.
It's odd, isn't it? Because sometimes you read about predators and automatically you think, oh, the predator's the baddie.
You think of them as like taking life from an ecosystem. You don't think of them as like putting life back.
That's right. And they might not have been aware of this, but look at the end results that are happening because of their presence.
Okay, cue Colossal Biosciences. This is a de-extinction company who are working towards bringing back species that have become extinct with the idea to restore ecosystems and create more stability. This is literally Jurassic Park. The animal that they've chosen to focus on is the direwolf.
And you've looped it all together.
I've looped it all together perfectly. So they have 2 samples of DNA. One's from a tooth and one's from a 72,000-year-old skull. They've studied the genome. They've compared it to a close relative, the grey wolf. But I think they've compared the direwolf genome and the grey wolf genome and seen where it's different. Extracted the different bits from the direwolf DNA, put it in to the grey wolf DNA, and have effectively created a direwolf embryo. They've cloned it as they did with Dolly the Sheep. They've used a surrogate. And in 2024, Romulus and Remus, 2 direwolf puppies, were born. A species that's been extinct for over 10,000 years.
I remember Dolly the Sheep, and I remember clearly my nan saying, "Are you sure they've not just brought in another regular sheep?"
I mean, how could you tell?
Like, as long as it's reasonably close enough, I reckon you could get
It's
away
like
with
when,
it.
when you were a kid and like if the hamster died and, sometimes some parents would go out and just try and replace it overnight with something.
And there's a really good mate of mine, and he had fish, and they don't last long. The dad had got bored of replacing the fish, he was doing it so regularly. And so the last time he thought, I've got to say something. And in the moment, he bottled it and couldn't tell the kid that the fish had died. And so he just told the kid that the fish had run away. And then the kid was like, oh, okay. And like,
just accepted it.
I watched an episode recently of Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
And the one aspect of Scooby Doo that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me is I don't know why people are always asking Scooby Doo's opinion. Because they're always going, oh, which one do you think is the baddie Scooby Doo? And he always
gives... He's not a reliable judgment, is he?
No, he's really not. He always gives the same response. So they'll go... They go, all right, Scooby, do you think he's a bad man or not? I don't know. Sausages. And... But the whole way
I feel like that's my dog's inner monologue.
The whole way through, they're constantly referring to him. All right, is that everything you have?
Yeah, that's everything about the direwolf.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
That's okay. Join us next week for more animal nonsense.